Breaking China-Canada news from the Communist Party of China, Xi Jinping. State media release as Mark Carney went to China, and China says it's you under us or you under them, not both. You make your choice, Mark Carney. For folks who don't know, and this isn't so much Eastern Canada, not really. I mean, gold is there for Ontario, a big problem indeed when it comes to USA over Canada, but really it's everything else out west. This is the evil of the western provinces primarily, and it's got both Democrats and Republicans really looking at Canada, as you've seen the example of Venezuela, now you're seeing the example of Greenland. It's not going to be too long before Canada finds itself in a place where Venezuela was in 2002. And it's Mark Carney who's bringing us there. There's something you don't do with the P5 allies of World War II, and that's play them against each other. Xi Jinping warned Canada, warned the coward Justin Trudeau, the tyrant. And now we have a new tyrant, a real crown-loving, high-scale fascist Mark Carney, who is an 18-year conservative, easily flopping to a overnight liberal, no problem. Liberal, conservative. It's all about the up and down scale. As I go through, presidents of the United States have highlighted this for decades. The biggest being Richard Nixon, then into John Fitzgerald Kennedy, then on to absolutely Ronald Reagan, and now Donald J. Trump. If you're a friend and follower and you haven't seen those black and whites from Richard Nixon, those from JFK, and even black and whites from Ronald Reagan, you're missing out. He talks about the up and down scale. Fascism. Completely fascist people. This is equality of the person. The victorious allies of World War II and the international binding laws they've created versus assigned equity of the person nations. Everybody, Mark Carney is in China deciding now, do I complete the transition that China's calling me out on, where we can't be crown anymore in the world? The allies won't accept crown. Mark Carney, in his hands, is going like this. I'm a powerful tyrant dictator, as all of my predecessors, all of my premiers and their predecessors, first ministers, our elected, our appointed, who own almost all the land in Canada, a good 94 percentile beyond crown land. They also have half of your private property. The elite, the entitled, elected and appointed. They believe in their superiority. Our laws define them as superior in every way. In all provinces, all territories, absolutely. The sad part is the transition to communism is alive and very well, has been for quite some time, for all of Canada's 3 territories. It's also true of Greenland from Denmark's crown. They own all the property. Anyone else must lease it. Very little, if any, subjects can own any of that kind of property. Never mind the First Peoples really put on very tiny little reserves, unsustainable reserves, under the thumb of the government, wards of the state, pretty much, dehumanized people. But the subjects, too, have very little in the way of any access to any private property rights in these areas. Almost nil, none whatsoever. Northwest Territory being about the biggest, there are 160 Canadians who own private property in the Northwest Territories. For example, everybody else must lease. You can never own. That is entirely the Communist China model. Okay? No private property at all in China. Almost none whatsoever in Canada's territories, and absolutely Greenland from Denmark. Now, in provinces, what private property remains is 9% of Canada. Largest sources being Alberta and Saskatchewan, really reducing everybody else. BC, Ontario, Quebec have the least amount per capita private property of any provinces in Canada. Most horrific in North America. There's no other example. When I say that, all of North America, folks, that's Mexico too. That's how bad it is for Canadians, whether they know it or not. Now, in Ontario, it's gold. Quebec and Ontario, it's into metals. And there's all kinds of restrictions of private property handed over to foreign interests, not Canadians, not Americans, certainly not Americans. Water rights entirely taken away. Out west, now we're seeing resources taken away from the people entirely. It's brutal. USA sees it clearly. This is what happened with Venezuela just some years ago. What's going on here today now? And people don't understand. Argentina has a history in this too. All from different crown kingdoms, but nonetheless, it's the same. They chose, Venezuela example, chose to do what they did to Americans and American companies, and they got thumped out, put into an extreme third world condition under a tyrant. Maduro and his predecessors, just like what Mark Carney's doing right now today in China. He's making a decision. Do I finish Canada off, save myself, my first ministers, and all the elected and appointed that most certainly will experience what I'm going to go into in major detail tonight in video. And I don't want to spoil that for all of you. But folks, if you don't know Nuremberg, and a lot don't, all the bullshit, and I'm going to get this out there, this Nuremberg 2.0 fake from Germany who's in jail right now, that's not Nuremberg 2.0. The Allies had Nuremberg 2.0 done to Japan in 1946, folks, after Germany. There's been about 84 Nurembergs in the world. They're all found in the United Nations Security Council Permanent 5 members resolutions, international binding law. You think USA's the worst? Or Russia? Not even close when it comes to sentencing foreign leaders and governments and regimes. Mark Carney's going to have to make a decision. Do I save myself, all my elites, my wealthy elites, and I want to protect them and sacrifice Canadians? How do I best do that? Well, Canadians, if you don't know, the Communist Party of Canada, third oldest party in Canada, was always their get out of jail free card. Then when the shit was going to hit the fan, when America was finally going to put an end to the socialism and fascism, equality of the person, all peoples of Canada, when that day was going to come, they were already ready that, oh my God, we're facing a choice that assigned equity and class structure ends. We're going to be held accountable for our crimes. Their get out of jail free card, like so many dictators throughout the world before them, is to transition into communism. They knew full well all about this in the creation of Canada, because go look at the establishing year of the Communist Party of Canada, made legal in Canada, kept alive and well for a rainy day, get out of jail free card for the Crown. Sacrifice all Canadians, whether they like it or not, all First Peoples, whether they like it or not. They will throw you under the bus to save their own skins. Because in the world of equality of the person, there are crimes against humanity that there are many living Canadian politicians and appointed Politicians that you don't even know, you've never even heard of their titles. Thousands of them, alive and well today, over many generations, receiving exorbitant sums of money for literally nothing, always stacking up upon each other, every single new administration, federally and provincially, many thousands out there guilty of these crimes, and under equality of the person, we the people, America, these people are going to go down in a bad way. They will lose all their wealth. There is nowhere in the world for them to go. For Canadians and First Peoples who don't know the American system, once you're an American, there's nowhere you can go in the world. The old saying, death and taxes, that's true in America. You can never escape as an equal citizen. No matter how far you go in business, as an American, there's nowhere you can go in the world. Near nowhere. Sure, you can hide out in UNSC P5s, but you're never coming back to America or its sphere of influence. This has always been for Americans, not for Canadian Crown corporations, people. They can literally offshore all their stuff through the Palace of Nations. They have been forever and a day. And that's all coming to an end. Mark Carney's in China doing what he started doing back in 2012, China FIPA deal. What he's been doing as governor of the Bank of Canada under the Conservatives, then under the Conservatives in London, England, as Bank of England, United Kingdom governor, a House of Lords, Lord of the Treasury, both treasuries. He's an evil man, an architect of fascism, a hater of America. He has papers, as I've published for months, going back dated to 2010, how he was going to transition Canada into China, away from USA. There's where he is today, saving his own skin, because this guy would go to prison in the American model system. He is going to transition Canada to China. He's already been starting that process. He's been working on it for 14 years. Many years as a conservative of Canada, a conservative of UK, and now leader of the Liberals. Because again, in Canada, there's only two original parties, Liberal and Liberal Conservative. It's a big scam. Pink or red, there's no such thing as blue. That's a con on all of you. And there's never been a good conservative. All the other parties registered in Canada have these same oath systems based on those two parties. All politicians ever elected to office or appointed are all scumbags. They're all in assigned equity. They sold their souls, committed extreme crimes. I'll be doing a major video to go into more on this, but everybody, Mark Carney is in China making that decision right now today, and China rolls that out. The press release from China's state media right here. I could even do more and show you his 2010 publication, his 2011 publication, how he transitioned Canada, why we sold off all our gold, why Stephen Harper absolutely sold off all our gold reserves. They all went through London right to China. Mark Carney's design. Stephen Harper is an evil man. He was nothing that Canadians thought he was. None of them are. They're all evil. Evil, globalist criminals who, at the end of the day, to save their own skins, their families' wealth accumulation in absolute horrendous human rights, human travesty abuses that are illegal in this world, that come with criminal sentences, maybe even their lives. And if you ever want to know about it, there again are 84 examples, literally hundreds of UNSC resolutions by those allies of World War II, putting people to death or putting them in life sentence prisons. Died in jail, in the Hague. Yeah, absolutely. That's the power of the P5. You don't mess with any of them, and you certainly don't try to pit them against each other. But Mark Carney and the design entirely of Canada since 1867, and just those several years post 1871, they came out with their escape route. They knew back then Communist Party of Canada. That we can be a republic as long as it's a communist system where we're all safe at the executive head top and everyone's an equal communist citizen. With no rights to any property, they maintain all the property, they keep all their crimes, they're safe. Brutal. Truthful, credible, 100% real and verifiable. This is what your Prime Minister's doing. And if you thought any of your first ministers, as Scott Moe championed Mark Carney to do this, as Danielle Smith, Conservative, championed him to do this, we got to get all the oil and pipelines to BC out to China. We have to blow all the natural gas in Alberta that was 1,000 years, then 300 years with the USA, to now 16 and a half years with China's 3 billion sphere of influence in communist tyrannical land. And that's what we're doing at the lowest rates ever recorded for those poor Albertans. That's natural gas for Canadian and many, many generations. No conservation there at all. That is lunatic. Off the charts lunatic. And what scares me is how many Canadians in the 90 percentile, Liberal, Conservative, NDP, Green, don't care. What happened to your environmentalism? Let alone conservative valued conservationism. Especially as a hunter, I know this. Never mind as a fifth generation Canadian who has deep family ties, original settlers, and you got to look at the state of our country today, my home province of Alberta, that's the most fused with China, just beating BC. But it beats BC. Worst in Canada. Largely Americans don't understand this. The high-ups, the Republican Party, the high-ups Democrat Party, know this 100%. And you're seeing a majority, they already made the bill against socialism, where Canada's planning to transition to, just as Venezuela did in 2002. Because we can't be held accountable. We're going to F over America. Well, Venezuela didn't win. Denmark's not going to win, as you're seeing. And Canada's due date is November. Finito economically, folks. And you're going to see it. And Mark Carney, again, today, right now, is in China finishing us all off. And again, all your conservative premiers from the West are going, Carney, Carney, go China. They want to make that transition because they're filthily rich. Their oligarchs are filthily rich. And all you can go to hell as communist citizens. From subjects to communists. How do you like that? And this is your conservative first ministers out west who've been transitioning your provinces for a long time. You don't see it out here east. You don't see it in Quebec. You don't see it in Ontario. I see the evil of the crown well positioned in Ontario and Quebec, but you don't see that communist transition that you absolutely see in BC, absolutely unmistakable in Alberta, that's now sweeping rapidly through Scott Moe into Saskatchewan at breakneck speeds. Unbelievable. I wouldn't believed it a year ago. I was actually giving credit to Scott Moe, but snap of a finger, he turned into an animal. Another scumbag, highly fascist, socialist animal. Again, if you've never watched those videos, the up and down scale, not left and right, the Canadians are so focused on, even a lot of Americans are. If you want to know the truth of this, you have to go in history. Richard Nixon's got a pile of beautiful videos. John Fitzgerald Kennedy, JFK, has a tremendous amount of videos. Ronald Reagan, a tremendous amount of videos. And because if you don't like Donald J. Trump, please go look at those three presidencies. Oh, hey, wait a minute. 2 Republicans and a Democrat presidency. Huh? Oh, that's why Robert switched over. Yeah, they know. They know. They're real Americans. This is a majority of the Democrats. They have a lunatic in the portion of their party. an acclaimed portion of the Republican Party, but they're really actually Democrats. In American history, those are Democrats. They may have some kind of mental block thinking they're Republican. They're not. They're sycophant fascists. Maybe have strong businesses, all built off that illegal immigration in America labor. And I heard a bunch of those speak the other day too. It's gross. You know, Koch brothers, there's a number of them. There's a big number of them. It's kind of scary, but it's only 10% of America. Should be all on the Democrat side. I don't know why people would think they're Republican when everything about the Republican Party is against all of that in all of its history. So I don't understand why they would think they are, but some people do. Folks, this is where Canada's at the monumental tipping point of, do we let USA go and we're all forced into communism? Because that's where Mark Carney is and is at right now. And that's the offer and the only acceptance China will take, that it's time to finish the rest of Canada off. You're going to have to transition the East. That means Quebec and Ontario too, because we've already taken Western Canada. And, you know, Atlantic Canada, sorry, it's not to put anyone down, and this is for Manitoba, and really Saskatchewan too, even though Scott Moe folded. I don't know where Wab Kinu's going to go, or any of the Atlantic premiers, but really it's a matter of, is Mark Carney going to force Ontario and Quebec? And for you Ontarians and Quebecois who don't know, again, I can't make this up, Alberta, you can't go into any hamlet, village, town, literally almost entirely in Alberta, without CCTV cameras at every traffic light, even in like country coming in, farm, whatever. Imagine in Ontario where there are 4 CCTV cameras in every single lighted intersection or at every stop sign. This is the truth nearly of all of Alberta already. There's 8,500 of these. They have facial recognitions. They're all Chinese cameras. Alberta has the most Chinese-based out of COVID that have never been repealed. Anti-protest laws. Well, what Ontarians do that I've witnessed and even participated in over the last 5 years, none of that is remotely even possible in Alberta anymore. You'll be facing a beat squad with shields and clubs. No Albertans protest like that in any private properties anymore. The carbon tax protest was pathetic and weak because why? You're not allowed on any private property anymore because there's hardly any anyway, but the government won't allow you anymore. They will send a brute squad in, Alberta sheriffs, modeled after Chinese police, where they protect the state, the Communist Party, first. If you want to look at the definition of a sheriff in Alberta, they're for Danielle Smith and her legislature, not for Albertans. That's what they want to replace the RCMP. Not that all policing's broken in the Crown system. I'm just saying this is another level towards China. Danielle Smith's been growing this at breakneck speed by the thousands of hire-ons just over the last 3 years, while Quebec and Ontario were sleeping. You have no idea how far Alberta's gone into communism, Canadians. Albertans are blind for some reason. I don't know why they don't see it. How could you not see 4 CCTV China cameras at every intersection, every small town, village, hamlet, and all big cities? Almost all of them. There's a few still to be done. But 8,500, how can you miss that as an Albertan? Because I promise you, that does not exist anywhere in Eastern Canada. You won't see it. They have no idea. But Trump knows. Trump has no love of Danielle Smith or any conservatives. He saw their China FIPA deal. He's been watching them since 2018. He has the China G7 radar. He knows federalism because that's what America is. A real one of we the people, not we the crown tyrants. He knows what your premiers are. He sat back playing chess with all of them, letting them make all their moves, watching them fold like paper airplanes. Nazify, basically, is the word Americans and Russians use. But the real word is fascism. Tonight's video brought to you by Germany. A message I personally can't give on my recent experience. I can't. Sorry, I thought someone was knocking there. Weird. Okay. Anyways, yeah, that's where we're at. Canada, Mark Carney, our tyrant, dictator prime minister, is going the distance with China. We're going to see it. It's a transition for all of us into communism. So if you like facial recognition, being monitored everywhere you go, CCTV cameras everywhere, none whatsoever private property, and leasing forever and a day, that's going to be the new Canada. If you're not Crown, that's where you're going to be. That's my video. Share, share, share. Mark Carney clearly published it 14 years ago, undeniably, and now he's making that finalization to save his own skin, all his first ministers, all of those you've ever elected, and all of those they've appointed, many thousands more than that. If you've never read the truth, and these anti-vax people really piss me off. They really do. Americans know they're not Republicans. They're actually Democrats. Mark Gadsden did a beautiful expose on this on X, and I'd really love to interview him on Facebook. He's so articulate, smart man. I'd love to have him there. We'll see. Maybe one day I'll be able to give that American truth to all of you Canadians. But these anti-vaxxers and their stupid Nuremberg 2.0, it's been Nuremberg like 84. And that's not one of them. This is the problem, right? This is the institutionalization, a massive ignorance of so many Canadians that Canadians need to know. 100% of the Canadian military needs to know. I'm going to do that tonight live in great detail. So God bless everybody. That's my video. Get it out there. Educate as many as you can. Because we're at point critical now. Point critical. God bless. Bye now.